The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip, and this is a mess. So where are we?
You just don't have the bandwidth. It happens.
Yeah,
well, there's a lot going on, and the first thing I want to do is I want to read this message from the mayor. He posted this about an hour ago. Raining this morning, so I didn't get to walk. I will be a real treat to work with later. I can tell you being a mayor right now is an extreme challenge, but one I am not afraid of. I just wish that someone had asked me during the campaign in one of the many interviews, how will you handle a pandemic? They would have stumped me because I know I would not have been able to answer that question. Who would? No one saw this coming. A typical day for me, this one started out with me finding out that the Durfee building project looks like it might be closing down on April 6th. Our health director's husband sent me a text telling me she is in labor. I depend on her, and even though we have a plan for her replacement I already miss her. Yesterday was loaded with tense meetings and phone calls as the staff and I pour through hundreds of pages of memos, new laws, contracts, advisories, letters with our focus on how to continue necessary city services while keeping people safe. Really easy, right? Fall River has been very good to me. You put your faith in me and you believe me. I am not writing this to complain. Far from it. I truly love my job and the challenges and always show up ready to work and help others. That's the best part of this job, helping others. There's just a lot going on, and that is the reason for this morning memo. I also want you to know that I am doing fine if you're concerned. And I'm asking for one thing, forgiveness, if any such word, and your understanding, because believe me, I know we are not going to do everything perfectly. My hope is that if and when we do something wrong, it can be easily corrected and we move on. I'm praying. My staff and I will continue to show up, answer questions, and work hard. Thanks everyone for your continued support. I love you guys. Interesting memo to send out in the morning. I mean, he's at least telling us how he feels. I think reinforcing what the people are looking for.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's what some people are looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. The reality is a pandemic is a pandemic. It's a horrible thing. I'm glad to hear that he's feeling okay. And I'm glad to see that you're feeling okay and I'm feeling okay. But this is just part of unfortunately, this is part of, maybe it's my jaded outlook from being someone who dealt with emergency situations on a daily basis, being in public safety. But that's the problem. And at the cost of seemingly everything else. So I still want to reiterate that I want to know where this deficit came from. I don't want to be stuck up against the 11th hour next year, trying to have people stuck in the GIC so they can take money to balance the budget on the backs of the.
So what I was saying, CJ, was that we have the President of the United States, the governor, everybody else having press conferences, and I understand that it's a difficult time. I'm glad that you're well, the mayor's well, everybody's well. We try to keep everybody well. That is something we all have to deal with. But the reality is that what I'm concerned about is that we need to to continue the business at hand in the city. We need to have people working on the financial team's not going to help with the pandemic. The financial team's not going to help with figuring out a test procedure. We need to find out where this deficit came from, holding people accountable to why just last year that same financial team, or at least half of it, was saying the half that still remains was saying that we had plenty of money. And I don't want to see next year being backed into a wall where they're looking at a GIC to shift costs to the employees, where they're looking to again burden the taxpayers and drag in the tax override, the debt override that wasn't supposed to be here until 23, and then use this as an excuse to say, well, we didn't have time to find out why. And I want to find out why. Because this is, I mean, it's nice note that he wrote. We understand you're a busy man, but that's what you signed up to do.
Yeah, well, you're right, and with everything going on, I just think I just think he's trying to reinforce with people, that he's meeting some resistance on doing things as well. I mean, especially when Tess Curran, the Director of Health and Human Services, goes in labor on him. That's not something he could foresee. He knew it was coming at some point, but he couldn't, picture when. So that's very interesting. But one of the things that I found interesting was the fact that he spoke about the Durfee project probably being stopped on April 6th. Now, this week, all the major unions had requested that all construction work in the state stop, because in construction, it's kind of hard to social distance. You know what I mean? And with that coming out, I mean, with construction stopping everywhere, if that is what the governor plans to do today, you're going to have real estate agents that are all upset because they have projects that are under construction, and construction is going to have to stop. You're going to have a lot more people out of work. So again, the economy isn't going to bounce back real rapidly with that, and we're going to take another hit. One of the things I think is interesting is today, and I just got this on my screen a little while ago. The Department of Revenue is to report today on the state's March tax collection receipts, which are expected to be down due to the coronavirus crisis. Of course, they're going to be down, especially seeing that now you've extended the people's time to file their tax returns. You're going to be looking at those receipts being delayed until the next fiscal year in some cases. So that's going to create a whole nother balance of problems. You know what I'm saying, Chip?
Oh, I absolutely know what you're saying, which means that this problem is also going to be created. It's going to be exacerbated in Fall River because you're not going to get tax receipts. You're not going to get as much revenue stream coming in. But there may be federal monies available. There may be bailout money. But this is the key. CJ, you were talking about it, and this is why the perspective is different. I guess with you and maybe, and I know with me, between the military and public safety, you're saying that something happened. He didn't expect his health director to go into labor. Well, that's the problem. The problem is when you're a CEO and when you're in charge of something, you have to be able to adapt and improvise. On a fire ground or in a military operation, things always don't go exactly the way you plan. So you have to be flexible, you have to improvise, you have to prioritize, and that's part of the job. And the reality is it difficult? Yes. Will do it better than others? Absolutely. There are some people that are better at it. But look, you're saying he kind of put this out to ease the public and make them feel better. But the reality is that that's fine, and I understand what his motivation is. But unfortunately, that doesn't work with people like me, because I expect things to go wrong. I expect to see some heat. When you're running something, you have to be able to adapt and improvise. And what you have to do is prioritize. There are a lot of people everybody's going to be in the same boat economically. This city is not going to get the money it thought. The state isn't going to get the money it thought. The feds are creating a $2 trillion, and they're into another phase 4 with maybe another $2 trillion. There's going to be money around. Everybody is going to same pot with that. But you know, the city of Fall River had a $4.7 million deficit before this hit. And we're going to forget about that if we don't remind people.
Oh, I agree.
I want to know where the hell that deficit came from.
I totally agree. I think we need to, and remember, she didn't call it a deficit. She called it a gap. Whatever she wants to call it, it's a deficit.
Well, she has a great way of turning a phrase in her favor. You know, and that is semantics. Gap. Well, if it's a gap, why do we need a debt override? You know, a gap is something like if I start a sentence and then start talking again. There's a gap in my articulation. That's not a gap, okay? It's you know, you can call it anything you want. You can call a janitor a sanitary engineer or a janitor. They do the same job. The fact is, we were short $4.7 million when the year before, during the campaign season, it was saying we had 8 or 9 million floating around. And this has a direct result, and it is exacerbated by the problems we're going to have with money. The taxpayers are already facing 2.5 max debt override, and the city employees are looking at having millions of dollars taken out of their pockets in extra co-pays because the city will again try that same scam of saying that the GIC saves money when it doesn't. All it does is shift the cost to the employee. People who are already getting taxed to the hilt overrided, and this is BS, and this is the problem. This can be used, and it will be used by politicians as an excuse to have everybody forget about what we had before this pandemic struck. The world is facing this pandemic. So let's not use it as a smokescreen. We have to deal with it. We have to hope everybody stays healthy and obeys what the directives are to keep it as minimal as possible. It's a disaster. It's a worldwide disaster.
Oh, there's
nobody is making light of that. But I'm telling you right now, I am not forgetting where we were before this struck, and I still want those answers.
I agree, and the people need it because one of the things we don't know, because they've never answered the question. They made a promise, but politicians and promises. They made a promise that it was going to be $118 on the debt override, but they never said if that was quarterly, if that was annually, is that per thousand. So we have no idea where the $118 is going to come from, but we know we're going to be hit with it, if not more. And I think it's going to be more. And with all these construction jobs now coming to an end or a halt, I think there's going to be more problems that the city's going to have to look at, because now with the Durfee project being placed on hold, does that mean everything's placed on hold? I know the money part of it's not going to be placed on hold, but what date that project's going to be completed is going to be put further out, which means are those students actually going to be able to use that school at that time? And we already knew, based upon the city's projections, that those students would be in that new school while they were still completing construction. They were doing the fine-tune work to make a better, call it something. And I think that we need to be very clear on the fact that this is our money. And I still say the people of Fall River need to rise up and take back their government. It is time for that. This pandemic has put a hold on many things that we wanted to do, and that CAG wanted to do. But you know what? That doesn't mean we have to forget. We need to remember this. We need to keep our politicians responsible to answer our questions. They're still passing legislative acts in Boston, but our city council is nowhere to be heard from. Nowhere. But meanwhile, our city council president can hold a meeting with all his real estate agents via Zoom or one of those online services, but he can't do that for the city council? And here was the excuse that was given. Well, we don't have anything emergency that needs to be handled. Well, how come on every single agenda that's been posted this year, the agenda had to be amended because there was emergency items that had to be handled? They weren't emergencies. You just wanted to add something to the agenda. You know what? Stop adding to the agenda. Don't make things an emergency, and don't lie to us, because that's what you're doing, Cliff. You're lying to the people. Every time you amend an agenda, you're lying to the people because it's not an emergency. Every time you don't have a city council meeting right now, you're lying to the people. The people want to know that their government is still working. And the only person we're seeing right now is the mayor. We're not seeing the city council do anything. So answer that question, Mr. Council President.
You're right. And the thing is that we do have an emergency, a true emergency. We're facing a $4.7 million deficit gap. I don't care what Mary Sahadi, remember, she called retirees liabilities, so that was her euphemism for a retiree, or actually it's not a euphemism, but it's a derogatory term, because all they are now is just they're useless now. That they're not going to go to work, but remember, I couldn't run a fire from Florida like she does when she's in Florida on conference calls and getting paid. So, this is the whole issue here. We do have some issues. We have city business to deal with. The pandemic is the pandemic. I don't expect the city council to handle the pandemic. We have the best medical minds in the world working on this. We are at their mercy. We have to depend on them. You go to the experts. If I want to know about something in the medical field, I'll ask you or somebody who's in the medical field. I'm not going to go ask my plumber about this. And the reality is that the city council, the mayor is giving updates and stuff like that, but the reality is they have absolutely zero input about this pandemic and how we're going to handle this pandemic. It's the federal government and the governor of the state that basically sets the tone. The medical community is running this. So there's no big decisions on the pandemic that are tying the city up. So there's no excuse, as you said, for the city council not meeting. There's absolutely no excuse. If we can do this, as poorly as this thing is coming across with my bandwidth, we're still putting the message out there. We figured out a way to get the message done. And if the retirement board can meet via telephone, we had our meeting this month, and we'll have our meeting next month. And the retirees meeting will probably be canceled, the Retirees Association, but we will try to get the messages to the people. But, you're right. Where is the city council? Conspicuously absent. They're on vacation, but I'll bet you they're taking their paycheck.
The entire city's taking its paycheck, that's for sure. Because either way, the city pays for it. Whether they're taking a paycheck or collecting unemployment, the city pays for it. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I want to start talking about the recent announcement by Union President Jason Burns from the Fire Department Union that we have a firefighter who's positive for the coronavirus. Now, they turned around and said that he worked with six other firefighters who are also being tested, and their test results should be in today or tomorrow. But there were also 6 other people that could have been infected. It gives you a grand total of 13 people, but there's different numbers from different media outlets. I've heard 10, I've heard 11, I've heard 13. My big question was, and Jean St. Pierre did a brief interview with Jason, and one of the questions I had was, did he talk about the cleaning of the truck, of the firehouse, after this was found out? I mean, because you need a complete cleaning. It's not just the truck, it's the entire house. Plus, was EMS looked at? Were the people who work in EMS that were in that same house looked at? Were they tested? Was the entire house tested? This is a question that needs to be asked. Now, the Chief Lynch, was on the air with Channel 10, I believe, or Channel 6, and he said that what he's looking at is right now his overtime budget is okay, but it may be depleted soon. Well, if it's okay, but may be depleted soon, that's kind of like a conflict in terms, don't you think?
Yeah, well, obviously now they're unanticipated. These are emergency situations. There may be money, federal money, and it's up to them to apply. Because obviously, with 6 firefighters being quarantined and 1 testing positive, and who knows how many others are going to happen, and it's happening to all public safety, police, fire, EMS. The reality is it's going to generate overtime because you still have to put people out there to protect the public. You know, it's the job. And the reality is that if they can't come to work, somebody else is going to come to work and be on overtime. But I think you hit a very, very important point. Are we doing everything we can to protect them by sterilizing everything? Is there a protocol? Are they doing it? Are they doing something to really make the environment that they have to be in, even, you know, fire stations or police cars? Are they being? Is there something being done to maintain the integrity of their environment so that, you know, they're not exposed because the guy on the previous shift was there? So there are some questions, but obviously there may be some money, and it always gets down to money. But obviously the government's gonna try to do everything it can because this is a worldwide issue. I mean, it's going to destroy our economy. And it's going to destroy the entire world's economy. And if they don't figure out, they're going to print money to try to bail it out because, you know, this could be, you know, do irreparable harm to every nation on earth if we can't get our basic world economy going, let alone the United States economy and our city economy. But, you know, our city doesn't have a very strong economy to begin with, CJ. We all know that the adage is always, you know, if Massachusetts gets a cold, Fall River gets pneumonia.
Exactly, and that's what's happening right now.
Now, since everybody else has got the coronavirus, we may be DOA.
Right.
Financially, so.
Right, and let's look at some of that. The latest numbers from the state show 32 deaths, 154 total deaths. There was 32 new deaths yesterday. 154 total deaths with 8,966 confirmed cases in Massachusetts. The estimated future numbers could see up to 172,000 people with coronavirus and nearly 2,500 deaths. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. Now, here in Fall River, we have 37 new coronavirus cases, I believe it was. So it's going up almost like multiples of 3 each time it goes up. So it's going to be interesting to see how badly Fall River gets hit and what we're going to do as it happens. Now, the president did declare a state of emergency for Massachusetts, which opens up the door to more federal funds. And I checked into what the federal funds can be used for, and they can be used for the overtime that the departments are entering into. But here's the key, and people have to remember this. It only pays for 75% of the expense. It doesn't pay the whole thing. So Fall River's still got to come up with 25% of that overtime. Any way you look at it. It's not as bad as 100%, but it's still money that we have to come up with.
No, you're right. But obviously we have to do what we have to do. And we are looking at we're looking at daily briefings from the president. And this morning I saw a very chilling thing on TV. They showed the portable morgues outside of the New York hospitals, which are basically refrigerators for the dead bodies.
Right.
They had. Well, I saw. The entire screen was full of these portable morgues, which are basically refrigerated trailers, and that's how many deaths they're having in New York City. And obviously, this is beginning to spread up the East Coast. Connecticut, they went over the numbers, and we've been declared as we've a national emergency in Massachusetts, and but we have a lot to deal with, and that's the problem. But we can be easily, but on one hand, we have a lot to deal with. But what do they tell you on the national level? What do they tell you on the thing? Try to maintain your distance, take all the precautions, but we've got to continue try to do business. We have to try to keep it, because the more we sit on our thumbs, the worse the economy gets, and that goes for the council. I do not understand why if the school committee could have a meeting, why if we have other boards can have a meeting, if what you said was true, that they had a meeting of realtors via teleconference. Why can't we have a city council meeting? I mean, if you've got 3 or 4 councilors in the chamber and the others on teleconference, they're going to have plenty of space, and they can wear masks and space suits or whatever they need to do. But I think they need to do business. You've got to do the business of the city.
Right, and even if the city council meeting is only keeping track of the finances and how much is being expended during this period of time, it would give the people and would give the city council an idea of where the budget is, because we don't know where our budget is right now. We don't know where the money's going. And because we don't know, we're not going to have an answer until the last minute. And there won't be an answer. There'll just be, we're short. And we're short $6.7 million, or we're short $8.7 million, or we're short $9.7 million, whatever it is. So it's going to be very difficult to see where we stand. And I would hope that our city council president hears this and that he understands it's time for the city council to stop meeting. They are part of the solution. They are part of the process. And if they're not going to meet and they're not going to be part of the process, why did we elect them?
You're right. Well, public safety is always on the job. They're emergency services. But you know something? This is a national emergency, and the government has to continue to grind. The president is there every day. The governor is there every day. The mayor is sent down a memo and he has something every day. Where the hell is the council?
That's true. Where is our council? Well, it looks like we're running out of time here. Is there any last words you want to send out there, Chip?
Just everybody, pay attention to the guidelines. Stay healthy, and now they're saying you can wear a mask, even though it's not absolute protection.
The problem is there are no masks.
Well, they're saying you can use a kerchief now.
Yeah. So, well, that's good. I'm glad that we were able to have this meeting, and hopefully on Monday we'll have a better connection for you. We're trying to get him a better connection of bandwidth. And I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay angry, people.
And stay healthy.
Yeah, please stay healthy. Keep that 6-foot distance.